Diddy?
Yes, he did. Oh.
Not did he, Diddy.
I see.
Hey, y'all running from me, yo.
All right.
Nobody said nothing.
Y'all running from me.
You be trying to, yeah, I'm on to your load.
Y'all running from me, yo.
What are we running for, Flip?
he running from the eulogy. This Mark Lamont here, gang,
I'm
bro.
not running from a eulogy. We talking about jail. I mean, which I guess could connect.
Yeah, exactly.
All of it.
That avoided jail.
Yeah, I mean, we can get to it, but I want to talk about Diddy first.
Puff lawyers are filing for him to be released immediately under the grounds of he was in there just doing adult sex stuff.
It's
First Amendment.
It's deeper than that. They basically said that he was convicted based on the rules of the Mann Act, which basically was which was an act that they kind of implemented to stop Jack Johnson and all of the black entertainers, really from white chicks.
Yeah,
that was really what they tried to stop him from doing. But
he was Jack and Johnson.
All right, stop, nigga, come home, stop.
Chubby checker. Yo, dog, stop, man. So basically, I think his lawyers and what they said kind of made sense. It's basically saying that he was flying in whomever he flew in for acts that were not based on commercial purposes, because they said that one of the stipulations is based around commercial purposes. So he like, yo, we was just doing this on some personal shit. It wasn't like he was selling this or like packaging it up and releasing it for profit.
Here's what his lawyer said. Freak-offs and hotel nights were highly choreographed sexual performances involving the use of costumes, role play, and stage lighting, which were filmed so Combs and his girlfriends could watch this amateur pornography later. Pornography production and viewing of this sort is protected by the First Amendment and thus cannot constitutionally be prosecuted.
Niggas be hiding behind that First Amendment, yo.
Yo, listen, loophole is a loophole. My thing is this, like, even for commercial purposes, it kind of didn't make sense when I started reading about it. Because if that's the case, if you live in New York and you fly to LA to shoot some porn, and they wrap it up and they sell it, what's the difference, kind of? You get what I'm saying? It's a
no one likes porn with condoms on, Ish. Carry on.
Where condoms came from?
Wrap it up. Carry on.
No, I'm just saying. So, like, it was a fine line to me on how you want to interpret the law. I'm not saying Puff ain't a piece of shit, or I don't feel like they. But what I'm saying is, when you start adhering to the letter of the law, his lawyers have a very good case.
Do you think they try to make an example out of Puff because his lawyer said this is the most time anyone's ever been convicted of?
Yes, for
with
those
similar
charges.
history.
For those charges, yes. Like for him to have gotten 4 years for those charges, that was already, to me, not just.
Amateur porn is a tough argument. It's a creative argument, and if I were him, I'd want my lawyer making it, and if I were the lawyer, it's probably the best argument you could make. I think the question they're gonna have to deal with is not was this stuff videotaped, which is a fact, but was the primary purpose of these acts to make amateur pornography, or were they doing sex acts that just happened to get videotaped? Because for Puff's lawyer's argument as a whole, to obtain it, it would mean that basically all this was being done so that we could make this production.
Isn't the prostitution the thing?
But
yes, the soliciting is a thing. The across state lines is a thing.
The state lines is the thing.
Unless I'm hiring them as actors to be or performers to be in my porn.
Commerce has to be exchanged, right?
And this is where it gets tricky. That's what I'm saying. That's where it gets tricky, right? Because if I pay you to be in not you, if I pay a person, I do way better. If I were to pay somebody, Idris, I mean, if I'm paying you to be in part of this amateur porn, then it's a different argument. That's what I'm saying. It's a creative argument. I just don't know if the court's going to buy it.
But who's the determining factor? They've said even in the court cases that they would go back and look at what they did. Him and Shorty would go back and watch the tapes. So he can now say, even document it, that me and my girl would go back and watch the sex tapes.
But then is every time someone has sex and videotapes it, is that always amateur porn by definition? That's the question I'm trying
to... That's what I'm saying. It's just the person that is ingesting the facts and determining whether they tell... If you and your wife make porn and y'all go back and watch it later on, Cool. Let's say you and your wife decided to hire a chick or hire a dude to join y'all, and y'all go back and watch it later on. Who's to say that that's not amateur porn that y'all are enjoying at a later time?
But I think the issue
if
is
at the
still
later time, my wife says, "Hey, that's not what was happening. I was being forced. I was being coerced. I didn't want to do some of these things. I was being like, if your wife contradicts what you're saying, then what?
But,
Right, which is what the
okay.
testimony has been.
Just for curiosity, I went to the wiki page, and the entry says in July 2nd, 2025, he was found guilty of 2 counts of transportation for the purposes of prostitution. If you're hiring prostitutes for a porn, you're still hiring prostitutes, no?
Yes.
But then, but hold on. If I'm hiring them for the porn, then it's not prostitution.
Why?
Because they're actors.
They're acting.
They ain't got no SAG card.
It's only prostitution if I'm not doing a porn.
contractors.
Yes.
Okay.
But then it's like, well, what's the testimony of the sex workers? Are they saying, hey, I was hired to do amateur porn? Or are they saying I was hired to...
That's a good point.
But
And that's what I'm saying. It's going to be hard to... It's a good creative argument. I just don't know if it's contradicted by the testimony.
The sex workers have already testified that.
Yeah, they rocking with him.
And they testified to Puff. And a couple of them are now suing Shorty.
Okay.
Right? So some of the sex workers are
And
saying...
a few more are suing him too.
Suing Puff?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. I
Few
know
more
some of them are
sex
suing
workers?
The
Cassie.
male sex workers are suing.
I know some of them are suing... A couple of the dudes are suing Cassie. But also some of the dudes said, I've never spoken to Puff. I've never had any interaction with Puff. I've only spoken to Cassie. Cassie's the person that hired me, not Puff.
Right.
So that's what they're saying. So to your point, when you're saying now you go back and say, yo, I didn't want to do these things. Now it's you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying, I'm not taking a side. I'm just being objective and saying, yo, I never spoke to this man. I got hired by her. She's saying she enjoyed these things. She's publicly said she enjoyed the freak-offs and was having freak-offs even when Puff wasn't there.
Okay.
It's a gray line. That's all I'm saying. It's a gray line.
something to argue,
and
for sure.
sometimes reasonable doubt is enough to get me the out of here
Maybe so,
and
yeah.
pose some gray lines.
I got a question.
It'd be better at trial, though, the reasonable doubt, as
It
opposed to
should've been.
now.
It should have
yeah.
been.
I got a question. Is this because the first thing I'm thinking, as a civilian myself, the first thing I'm thinking is, well, where did this come from? Why didn't they just use this, this angle while they were at trial? But of course, the answer I'm thinking is they were already going to plan to appeal as many times as they can, and it's just their first shot at appeal.
Yeah, and I think this is a better argument for appeal probably than
trial.
at trial.
Okay.
That's my sense. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to. But based on what I've heard lawyers say about this particular situation, that seems to be the argument. I've also heard lawyers say in the last 24 hours that this is a strong argument. Yeah, they're not saying it's gonna win, but they're saying like this is if you're going to appeal, this is.
I don't think
one.
any argument he presents is going to win just because of how they feel about him.
Yeah,
like you turned down the $50 million bail 9 times. I
Yeah.
don't feel like we don't want you out of
Agreed.
here.
But the appellate court may have a different disposition.
That's true.
Because
Oh, yeah.
at different courts level, sometimes you have a conservative justice, sometimes you have a liberal justice, sometimes you might have somebody who's on the bad boy tour. You never know. You know what I'm
Facts.
saying? Like you may look up and get the right judges for your appeal. You just don't know. And some people are about the procedure and the letter of the law, as opposed to
Any emotional bias that you may have based on seeing him beat up Cassie. I think all of those things played a part in him not getting exonerated. And I also think they played a part in his sentencing.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Like that's the bigger thing. Like you can go find that really pimp for a living and they don't get 4 years in jail, fed time for their first offense.
yeah. This was
I'm talking about that wake up, putting their foot in the, you know what I mean? They don't get that. So I think a lot of bias played a part in his sentencing. So you might get the right, again, appellate court judge that just goes by the letter of the law and let him go.
it wouldn't shock. I don't.
Or give some of his time back. What he
Yeah.
did. He's done over 1.5 years already.
Yeah, 'cause
Maybe
that-
2 years. It's
That
going on
was
2
the
years.
upside of not coming home on bail. All that time added up. I think that he still has a harder way to go than a regular person because he's rich as he's black, on top of the fact of him being famous. So it's like, just like I'm saying, some judges are this way, some judges are that way. Some judges just see rapper, just see black
Yeah,
man.
they don't care.
Yeah, so.
and they won't care. What are your predictions? You think he wins this or no?
Nope.
Nah.
New Joe Budden.